Hey girl, hey girl, hey. Hi haters. So y'all, basically, I'm sure you can see the title and you probably thinking like, Vanessa, what you got going on, girl? So, upon doing my research and also, I've been seeing a lot of posts lately, y'all, from Facebook and YouTube and things like that, and I've been seeing a lot of people that's been saying they are homeless, especially mainly women. So I thought my gift of giving is to do a how-to video based upon my demographics. So I felt like instead of doing a reaction video today, I'm going to provide some beneficial information. And just to let y'all know, if you have not subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe because I plan on coming out with more of these videos. If you like it, y'all have to leave a thumbs up in order for me to know if you like it or not, so that way, you ain't got to comment. Not all the time, especially not on this video. I'm sure you wouldn't. But go ahead, at least hit that thumbs up button and hit subscribe, because that lets me know that I'm doing something right. That lets me know that you like the video, so that I can make more how-to videos that benefits us as a woman, okay? But anyways, let me get into it. In order to go ahead and tell the how to get Section 8, basically I have to tell you a story that ties into how to get it, okay? But it's foul proof, all right? So those of you that know, that watch my channel, I mention it all the I don't mention it all the time, but I have mentioned in the past that my daughter's dad was very abusive, to the point that, like I said, I was awarded by the state money assistance in order to move away from him. Also, when we had our last, the police basically took it upon themselves, because me and him lived together. The police took it upon themselves and they moved me to a shelter. They drove me to a shelter, and basically they escorted me to a abuse shelter. So, like I said, the story ties into how to get Section 8. Now, when I first moved down here where I'm currently living, I moved only because I was offered project housing, not necessarily Section 8. It was, is it called project housing? Project housing, yeah, it was called project housing. I was there for 3 years, yeah, there for 3 years, and, eventually I decided that's, the project housing that I was necessarily in, I decided that wasn't something that was good for my son to be living in, especially being that he was a teenage, seeing all the drug dealing and, all the stuff that's going on. You already know, if you're familiar with the projects, all that, okay? So, let's get back into it. So, because we want to turn this into a depressing story. So, it's not depressing, okay? So, just take the information and the benefits from it, if you are going through a hard time or whatever the case may be, and use this to your advantage. But, anyways, like I said, what the police department, what they did was they escorted me to a women's shelter. Now, I was there at the women's shelter, I think I was there for like 21 days, I believe. Was it 21 days? Yeah, I was there for 21 days, and it took all of like a week in order for me to get the assistance from the government in order for me to move. But that doesn't have nothing to do with the Section 8. If you are in an abusive relationship, I will hope that you would get out, because you never know. But yes, there's state provided funding that allows you to move. They recommend you move to basically a different city if you can, in a different state, to get away from that person. But that's another story. I will drop the link in there for the Women's Abuse Hotline for anybody that's experiencing that type of thing. Just let me know, okay? So anyways, yeah, so with the women abuse shelter, I started noticing, because y'all have to understand, I've been on the Section 8 waiting list for many years, and I'm sure a lot of people could attest and say the same thing, that they have been on the Section 8 if you have ever applied for Section 8. Like, I was on that list for probably about, I know somebody else, I think my dad applied for me to be on the list, and then I was on another, what is it, like, another list. Yeah, basically I was on another list. And then another thing too is, y'all, I know y'all know that, the people that have applied for Section 8, that basically you have to wait for an open list to open up. Let me recommend something to you. You don't necessarily have to try to get in your state. Like, say for instance, the city that I was living in is a a fast city. So therefore, that means that it was a lot of people there, a lot of tourists live there and stuff like that. So you are less likely to get it within that city if it's a city, like a New York or something like that, in Manhattan, New York or something like that. You understand what I'm saying? your best bet is to try to go somewhere where there's not as many people. You know what I'm saying? If you could sacrifice to do that for at least a year, then, you know, y'all already know with the Section 8, you can go anywhere within the United States. So even if you chose to go to Hawaii, which is part of the United States, or Puerto Rico is part of the United States. Hell, I think they accepted in Puerto Rico too. You know, you could move back to where you started from, but the whole point about it is sometimes you may not necessarily get it in the city that you are in. That's the key factor. So if you see it open in different, they have like a website, you can just Google it, and basically you'll see that it's open in different cities in different states. And like I said, I recommend just applying to different ones. It don't even matter. At that time I was fed up. At the time I was like, I gotta get away from this man, and I don't know how, but I'm gonna get away. Okay, so that has to do with that. Then also, once I applied for the city of Miami, and I was like, oh wow, I had to be like number 5,000 or something on the list. I applied for the city of Miami, but that's good. Normally, you know, I did another city of Miami, and I was like 100,000 on the list. So, you know, 5,000 is not that bad. That probably, you know, even if they was moving really slow, you know, it might take 2 years, 3 years, might even take less than that. But here's the thing. You have to be at least on the list for this to work. You see what I'm saying? You have to at least be on somebody's list, I'm noticing, for it to work. So the whole thing about it is, like I said, part of it has mainly to do with you being in a shelter. So whether it's a homeless shelter, a women's abuse shelter, any shelter, if you are in a shelter, basically that provides you urgency. You understand what I'm saying? That provides you urgency. So basically, like I said, I mainly see that it works for people that already was on a list, but for some people I've seen that, you know, they kind of found some loophole, because some of the females that was there wasn't necessarily on the list, but they was getting them Section 8 like hotcakes. Okay, all the caseworkers was getting them Section 8 like hotcakes. And don't just think it's not necessarily, you know, this is tried and true method. It's not necessarily it was just that particular shelter or it was a women's abuse shelter. Like I said, it works for whether it's a teenage shelter, whether it's a homeless shelter, whether it's a women's abuse shelter. But mainly the whole thing about it, like I said, you would have to be on somebody's waiting list. You understand what I'm saying? And basically, I think what it does is, I'm sorry, y'all, I have to move the camera. What I think what it does is, I think it flags the list like, okay, well, you know, this is some sort of urgency, because you only have 21 days, you know what I'm saying, most times to go and stay in those places. So it's like, what the hell can we do with you after 21 days? You know, this is the state of urgency. You have kids. You know, even if you don't have kids, it's still a state of urgency, because we have to place you somewhere, and we don't want to have to place you into the streets. You see what I'm saying? And then most shelters, I notice, even with not necessarily just abuse shelters, but homeless shelters, they have like I'm not even sure what the exact name for it or whatever, but it's like a tiered program. So say for instance, if you don't get yourself on your feet, and some people may not necessarily get the government funding, you know, because they might not feel their situation of abuse wasn't so bad, or the homeless situation, they may not feel like it's so bad. But for some people, they give them a lengthier time to stay there. Like they'll give them, okay, well, after the 21 days, you know, we'll give you another 3 months or something, or another 6 months, in order for you to find a job, and in order for you to get, you know, on your feet, and find a place and stuff like that. And basically they offer a lot of resources. But like I said, you have to take it upon yourself to go ahead and sign up for a list, any list, in order for it to work. And you know how I said it worked, y'all, because soon as I got into that shelter, the thing about that was crazy was lists that I've been on that I was like number 100,000, or lists that I didn't even know I was on. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it was crazy, because it was like 4 people called me at one time when I first moved down here. Now all of a sudden my list, my number went from 5,000 for Miami all the way up until, okay, we're ready for you now. So that doesn't seem like a coincidence to me. It does seem like God's favor, but it does seem like too, I see you know, the loophole in the system. And like I said, I could see how a lot of people was getting it like hotcakes. They was getting it like hotcakes. Like people that I know to this day and I still communicate with, they got them, but you have to be in a shelter at the time in order for them to get it for you fast. I mean, they expedite it like this, but you have to be in that shelter. So you don't leave until you get it. And that's that. But like I said, when I moved down here, and I just accepted the project housing because, like I said, I just wanted to get away from my baby daddy. That was another issue. So I ain't had no problem moving to another city. It wasn't no problem for me. It was nothing but a hop and a skip. So I did that. I stayed all of 3 years. I got all of what I needed to get out of it. I got all of my resources. I got an education out of it. You know, and basically that's what it was. And like I said, I had to move because of the simple fact that, you know, that particular project, don't get me wrong, there was something down here that's nice, but that one that they moved me in, I just couldn't do it no more. So I had to get myself and my kids and take them away, and my family. And you know, even if we, you know, but it's a good thing. But if you have Section 8, I would recommend you stay on it because it's different. At least with the Section 8, you could take the Section 8 from your apartment.